Some days you just want to give up and keep eating. You don't want to keep thinking about your goals. You've tried all the strategies to stop a binge and nothing feels like it's working. And so you just binge. I'm going to teach you a strategy today for these moments. And this is something that I love using with my clients whenever they are in this place where your brain has almost decided already that I'm already going to eat this food that I'm not hungry for. And it really will help you change your entire experience of the binge. I also use this when you feel like you're already past the point of trying to stop an urge, or you've just had a couple of days or weeks where you just keep binge eating, where you just keep overeating and every other strategy feels too hard. So the core idea behind this strategy is that this is not about stopping the binge. What we are going to be doing essentially is giving your brain permission that it's okay to act on this urge, right? Because we've already tried all the things and we're going to do it. We've just decided we're going to do it. Although normally it's not a decision, it's something we just kind of slide into, and that's going to be part of it, is making a decision around it. But the whole purpose around doing this is not to force ourselves to eat less. This is more about gaining awareness so you see the food differently and change the entire experience of how the binge happens, which will, in time, help you eat less. I've created a free cheat sheet for you that outlines all of these steps, and I'd recommend printing it out or writing it down somewhere so you have this ready to go the next time you've tried all the strategies, although there's probably strategies you haven't tried that I haven't taught you yet, but you feel like you've tried everything, you want to give up, and you are just in full binge mode. That's when you need to use this. So that will be down in the show notes for you to access. All right, so you've gotten to the moment, you're facing off with you and the food. Normally what will happen is you probably eat very fast, you feel out of control, you're mindless, maybe you start scrolling TikTok while you're eating or watching TV. It is just like this out-of-body experience. And so what I want you to do when you've already decided that you're going to binge is I first want you to make it a clear, conscious decision. Literally tell yourself, I am choosing to binge right now. And be honest with yourself about the reason you're choosing to binge. 100% honest. That might be that you're thinking that this experience is going to be fun and pleasurable. So literally saying out loud to yourself, or if you're with someone in your head, I'm choosing to binge right now because I think that this is going to be fun and pleasurable. It might be good for you to write this reason down too, so you can reflect on it after and see if it's true. Or I'm choosing to binge right now because I think I'm never going to get a piece of chocolate again. Or I think if I don't get this chocolate right now, I'm not going to allow myself permission to have it later. So I just want to get it in now. Getting that awareness and being honest with yourself about the reason that you're binge eating will give you so much good information to have later that you can work through on your own. Or if you're working with me in the Confident Eater program, this is where I often encourage people to bring these thoughts to the coaching call so we can unwind them together and see how they're not true and help your brain let go of those thoughts. Okay, so you've made this clear, conscious decision. I'm choosing to binge right now. Here are my reasons. Next, I want you to get the food out and I want you to plate it. Again, this is not a strategy. This is not to say I'm trying to do portion control right now and I'm only going to have one of these Oreos. I literally want you to ask yourself, if I were to binge on this right now, how much would I want? It might be the full container. I want you to take the full container of Oreos and put them on a plate, or the full bag of chips and put it in a giant serving bowl. And I know this sounds funny and maybe you're giggling to yourself, like how funny would that be if I took the entire bag of chips out and put them in a bowl? But what you're doing is laughing at it because it seems so ridiculous when we're not having an urge to binge. Like, why would I eat an entire bag of chips or a whole thing of Oreos? But it's important to really give yourself permission here of like, I'm going to serve myself that full amount of food because otherwise your brain might say, but I was going to binge anyways, like let's just have it all. This is about intentional binge eating, okay? So you are going to take whatever food you imagine, putting it all out. Now, there is this chance that you might get to the point where you're like halfway through that ginormous thing of chips and you're looking down at yourself and you're like, I don't really want the rest. Then maybe you save the bag so you can put them back in. Or if it's the Oreos, you keep your Oreo container next to you, or maybe you do even eat out of the package. But the most important part of this is that you're doing it mindfully. So you are not doing this while you're scrolling TikTok or watching TV. You are just sitting down, you and the food. And if you feel resistance to that, that's interesting, right? Because you might be telling yourself, well, the food is just so delicious. Like, I just really want to eat it. Well, if it's so delicious and you really want to eat it, why are we not sitting down and tasting it? Like, that's so silly. Imagine if you told yourself, oh my gosh, I'm just really wanting a massage. I'm so sore. And the whole time you're at the massage place, you took your laptop with you and you're typing under the table and working. Like, you want to do that, right? Because you're like, well, no, the purpose here is to relax and to get a massage. So if the purpose is like, I just want to binge because the food is just so delicious, make sure you're actually tasting tasting the food and being honest with yourself. And if you're like, well, all I want to do is zone out. Okay, well, now it's actually not about the food. There are ways you can zone out of your life without eating. You can zone out on TikTok. You can zone out on Reels. I do that all the time. Not intentionally, but there are ways that we can choose to zone out, and we can zone out in helpful ways of our life. Like meditation is a form of zoning out. Going for a walk. Like I sometimes zone out on walks. Going for a car ride and a drive. You can zone out there a little bit. Not too much, of course, you're driving, but there are ways we can zone out. Taking a nap. Like there are so many other things that you can do besides using the food. And that's why it's so important to be honest with yourself. Like, why am I actually eating this food right now? Because if you're eating it for pleasure and the taste, like make sure you're actually tasting it. So you are sitting down with the food. You are eating it mindfully. And that is the key part of this strategy. Telling yourself, I have full permission to binge, but I need to do it in a mindful way. That is the only rule here. So you're doing it in a mindful way. As this is happening, asking yourself, how is the food tasting throughout the experience? I want you to bring all of your present attention to that food and see the things that you can notice. The texture, the temperature, the sweetness or saltiness, the dryness or moistness. If it tastes differently than you imagine, if it tastes worse than you imagine, which is often the case, our brain paints this like rainbow, beautiful, magical fantasyland story about the food. And then when you're tasting it, you're like, wait a second, it's not even that good. Just notice that. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to shame yourself for it. You're like, I'm observing that this isn't as good as my brain told me. I'm observing that this experience is different than my brain told me it was going to be. Allowing yourself to slow down throughout this experience. That is what will help remove the urgency of I need to eat it all right now. Eating it as slowly as possible, noticing it, taking little bites. So if you have that giant thing of Oreos in front of you, closing your eyes, taking nibble by nibble. There is no rush. No one is coming to take this food away from you. And you're not doing anything wrong. Now, I know you don't want to binge, but binge eating does not make you a horrible human being. You're just eating food, even if it's food that your body doesn't necessarily need. It's okay, especially since you're owning it and you're doing it in this new way. A lot of times once we remove the guilt from it, that's what allows us to slow down. The reason you're eating so fast is because you don't want the emotion of guilt to come up. You just want it to be over in a blink of the eye so you can hopefully avoid the guilt and shame that's about to inevitably come. And it always does come, right? Because we're doing something we don't want to do. But if you just decide, I'm eating this food, I'm taking responsibility for it, and I'm not going to feel guilty for it, that's what will allow you to slow down and taste the food more. Sometimes giving yourself permission to binge is all that you need to be able to pause and walk away. So I have seen people use this strategy and literally they're like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to binge. They put out all the food and they're like, this isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. Come on, Amber. Like, do we really need to do this right now? And you just realize, I don't need to do this. You take a few deep breaths and you move on. But if that doesn't happen, this hasn't gone wrong. This experiment hasn't gone wrong. Because even if you still finish the food, this is a win. And that is the hardest part to conceptualize here. A lot of times for my perfectionists and high achievers that I know we all are here, we tell ourselves it's either we're not binge eating and that's a win, or we're going full-blown binge mode and that's just going to be a failure. The biggest part of recovery is learning how to find the middle ground. Normal eaters find the middle ground all the time. They don't let a little bit of overeating turn into a big spiral. So you need to decide that even if you binge, this is a win because you're binge eating in a new, more productive way. Even if you finish the entire bag of chips, the entire thing of Oreos, you are still going to celebrate yourself. And I know that feels weird, but this is important because this is how you start to change. At least you enjoyed it this time, right? If you sat down and you're like, you know what? I had 20 Oreos and I enjoyed every minute of it. Great. Did that happening probably a little bit low, right? Because it starts to become not so pleasurable, but maybe you did enjoy it, right? Then, okay, great. You got the pleasure out of it. Moving on. But you'll probably notice that the experience of binge eating and overeating is not pleasurable. And we want to remind ourselves of that. It's never fun in the end. It never leaves us going down. But by slowing down and being intentional with your food, you're for sure going to enjoy it more than if you just shoveled it down in 3 bites in the haze of a binge urge. Another benefit of slowing down the binge and doing this intentionally and with full permission is you're gonna learn a lot from it. I hear all the time people coming to me on our calls and in coaching, and they're like, it just happened so fast. I just ate so fast. I don't even know what I was thinking. And that's hard to change because we don't know what we're trying to change. So if you're just saying F it right now and you're still in that brain fog and you're still in that binge fog of it all, you're not going to be able to grow from it. So you'll have a lot more insights about what's going on. You'll have more awareness around your thoughts and feelings and the sensations that you're noticing in your body. When you slow down and bring this awareness, you're changing what your brain learns from the experience and how it experiences it. You are teaching your brain that binge eating is not as rewarding as it thought it was. And that is how your urges lose power over time. And this information is exactly what you need to learn and grow from it so you can prevent it from happening next time. The goal here is not to never binge again. The goal is to turn every binge into information that grows you instead of shame, because shame is what keeps the cycle going, but awareness is what will break it.